Hello, and welcome to the United for Math series on fractions as division. In this series, we will be interpreting fractions as the division of the numerator by the denominator and using that knowledge to divide fractions. We will then apply that to real-world problem solving. This lesson is so important because it really gets students to understand what a fraction is. And we're about to see that a fraction is the numerator divided by the denominator. So let's take a look at our first fraction. Here we have the fraction 1/4. To interpret this as a division problem, we take the numerator and we divide that by the denominator. So that would look like this. 1 as our numerator divided by 4, the denominator. So 1/4, if we interpret that as a division problem, is 1 divided by 4. Now, how would that look as a model? So if I take 1 whole, and I'm going to divide this 1 whole into 4 pieces. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So then each piece would be worth 1/4. If I have 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, that gives me my 4/4 or my whole. So here are a few different ways that we can interpret 1/4 as 1 divided by 4, or 1 whole divided into 4 parts. It's important that students understand when we read fractions, we always read top to bottom, or numerator and then denominator. Same thing applies as when we read a division problem, we need to read that left to right, or that would be our numerator divided by our denominator. So let's see how these rules apply to our next problem. So here we have the division problem, 5 divided by 8. So when we interpret this as a fraction, it will be interpreted as the numerator divided by the denominator. So our numerator is 5 divided by, which is our fraction bar, our denominator, 8. So 5 divided by 8 is 5/8. So how would this look as a model? So let's say I have 5 circles. I can take these circles and divide them into 8 pieces. So I'm taking each of these 5 circles and dividing them up into 8 parts or pieces. So each of these pieces is worth 1/8. So if this is worth 1/8, another over here, 1/8, another one here, 1/8, another one here, 1/8, another one here, 1/8. So if we look at this as pies, if we had 5 pies and we're dividing these 5 pies up into 8 people, each person would receive 1/8 of this one, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. So this could be interpreted as 5/8. Now that students have a good base knowledge of what a fraction really is, which is the numerator divided by the denominator, let's apply that to some real-world learning. In this next problem, we will see a common misconception that students usually think that when we divide, the greater number needs to be first. Well, in these last 2 examples, we saw that's not true when we're dealing with fractions, because fractions are parts of a whole. So let's take a look at our real-world problem. So here's our problem. Ronnie has 3 pies. He wants to share the pies equally between 5 friends. How much pie will each friend receive? So when we're working with problem solving, we need to figure out what is being shared or used or cut up. So what are we sharing? We're sharing 3 pies. Who or what is doing the sharing? Or how many pieces do we need to cut this up into? Well, we have 5 friends that will be eating these 3 pies. So if we were to interpret this as a division problem, we know we have 3 pies divided by 5 friends. To turn this into a fraction, we would take our numerator, 3, divided by, using our fraction bar, our denominator of 5 friends. So each friend would receive 3/5 of pi. So remember, when interpreting fractions as division, we always read our fractions from top to bottom and our division problems from left to right. When looking at real-world problem solving, it doesn't matter which number is larger or smaller. What students really need to understand is that the numerator is what it is that's being shared or used up or broken apart. And the denominator is the who or the what that's doing the sharing or how many pieces that we need. We look forward to seeing you in our next lesson, where we will be estimating division problems using fractions. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.